Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about for loops. And loops, what loops are going to do is they're going to help us to consolidate our code, make it nice and short. That way we can do multiple things with a few lines of code. And I'll demonstrate that here. There are two main types of loops. We're going to go and talk about the first one today, for loops, and then we'll talk about the other one next time. But what for loops are going to do is they're going to allow us to do multiple things in the same thing, right? So what we'll be talking about later in the video is how we can do stuff with artificial intelligence with loops. But for now, let's take a look at we've had this this bit of code at one point or another. I think by the end of the if statement tutorial. But this is just going to be a small bit of code. So ammo is equal to 1, can fire is equal to true, and we're going to fire if can fire is equal to true, decrease their amount of ammo. If our ammo is equal to 0, then we'll set can fire to false, and then what we did was we ran the same bit of code again. What we can actually do is we can actually, in just a few lines of code, go ahead and do that a million times. So if we wanted to do this, I don't know, let's say 5 times in the old way, then we would have to do a little bit like this. And as you can see, for just doing the same bit of code over and over again, this is a lot of writing. This is a lot of space being taken up that doesn't need to actually happen. So what we can do is I'm going to create what's called a for loop, and it's going to look a little bit something like this. It's going to have similar syntax to the if statement, where we have for, and then we have some conditions inside of our parentheses here, and then it's going to have brackets like this, the angle brackets, or not angle brackets, but the curly brackets, braces, whatever they're called. But inside of here, what we're actually going to do is we're going to have some special conditions which will set exactly how our for loop is going to run. So what we're going to do is I'm going to create a temporary variable called I. And what I is going to do is I is going to increase for every single time that we do this, that we complete all the code that's in here. So right inside of this, we're going to do stuff. So I'm going to create a temporary variable called I, and I is only going to exist for this for loop. And what that'll do is we increase it every time that we do stuff, and once it reaches our maximum threshold, it will stop doing it. So what I'll do is I will go ahead and start doing that. So I'm going to create this temporary variable, and it's going to say int I, and I'm going to set it equal to 0. Most of the time when you see for loops inside of C++ or really any programming, you'll see that almost all of the iterating variables is what I'll call them. They're almost always going to be set equal to 0 to start off with, unless you see some very specific and specialized use cases. So for int I is equal to 0, and I'm going to check to see if and we're going to do this while I is going to be less than 5. So we want to do this 5 times. All right. And then we're going to increment I. So this is what it'll end up looking like, right? So we'll say int I is going to be equal to 0. And for each time we're going to run through this, we're going to increase I by 1, right? Because this is going to be the same as I plus equals 1. We're just going to do plus plus. And we're going to do this for every single time that I is less than 5. And I don't know why I got rid of that code right there. But here we'll say if can fire is equal to true. Remember, we're going to do our equivalency, not our assignment, so the double equal sign. So if can fire is equal to true, we'll decrease the ammo. And we'll add in a comment that says we fired the weapon. And then we'll go ahead and check to see if the ammo is equal to 0. So if the ammo is going to be equal to 0, then what we'll do is we'll set can fire to false. Just like whenever we did this stuff, right? And all of this is inside of our for loop now. So instead of typing this out 5 times in a row, we type this code out 1 time inside of our for loop, and it will run continuously. So what I can do is I'm going to set a breakpoint, I don't know, here, and I'm gonna lower this down to 3 just for demonstration purposes. So I'm gonna build and compile and run it. And it's looking for a variable called result. I don't know what that's for. But if we go ahead and step through our code, what is it, F10? Yep. It'll get run this first time right here. Everything right here, boom. Now can fire should be equal to false, right? So let's go ahead and check can fire. Yep, it's set to false. So when we step over one more time, it'll go back up to the top of our for loop, and it'll come down, check to see if can fire is equal to true, and it's not going to be true, so it's going to skip back down to the bottom, and it'll keep doing that while I step through until it's over. And like I said before, you want to be careful with stepping through, because if you step through to the end, I don't know why, but C++ and Visual Studio do not like it. So there you can see that our code was run. You know, we can do this 100 times, right? And what'll happen is I'll step through, and I can step through 100 times, and as you can see, every time it skips right over, right? And that'll just keep going on and on and on. I'll hit continue. I don't have time to be sitting here hitting F10 all day. But that's a very useful, short and concise way of going ahead and doing it. And we can do tons of other stuff with this too. So if I've got int ammo, right, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say int result. And this can be done to do simple math too. So I'm going to say int result, and I'm going to set that equal to 0. And right here, what we're going to do is we're going to add up 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 all the way to 10. What we should get is 55, right? So what I'm going to do is int 10 or int I equals 0, and we're going to say if I is greater than or equal to 10, because we want this code to be run after. I'm sorry. If we just leave it like this, right, it will add up 0 plus 1 all the way through to 9, because once we run the code for that last time, and it checks I will be at 10, and I is less than 10 would be a false statement. So what we're going to do is we're going to check to see if it's less than or equal to 10. And what we're going to do is we're just going to say result plus equals I. So it's going to say for every single time that we run this code, right, it's going to add I, whatever I is at that moment, to the result. And so I'm going to set a breakpoint at the end, so when this is all said and done, what we should do is we should be able to go ahead and take a look at our result variable and see that we get a value of 55. So you can do all kinds of basic math and stuff with this. If I do times equals, what's probably going to happen is we're going to get 0, right? Because the first time we run this code, it's going to multiply result by 0. And when we look at result later on, yep, anything times 0 after that point is going to be 0. So that might be a case where you want to start your I at 1, right? Because we want to multiply 1 times 2 times 3 all the way up to 10. So what that also means is that we're also going to have to increment our code by 1, right? No, I don't think that's right. So we're going to multiply 1, then we're going to multiply 2, then 3, and keep going down to 10. I actually don't know what that's supposed to be, so we'll find out. And I still get 0. That's because result is going to be 0 as well. So if I change result to be equal to 1, and we go ahead and build and run this code, there we go. We get 362,000. No, we get a really big number, don't we? So that's 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5 times 6 times 7 times 8 times 9 times 10, which, now that I think about it, should be a pretty big number, which 3 million and something is. So that's really cool. But once again, we're going to bring this back to games, right? Because this series is all about games. And we talked about artificial intelligence. And here I'll show you a clip of where I think it could have very well been possible that for loops were used. And this is going to come from Battlefield 1. It's going to be a little bit spoilery. This is a stealth mission. I won't say what mission it is. But here what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and attack and melee attack this soldier that's sitting right here, but I'll accidentally alarm him. And as you can see on the HUD, I also have 2 other enemies that are going to be over to my right. And once I alarm him, it's going to alarm all of the guards or soldiers in that area. So for each soldier in the area, it's going to send an alarm and send the artificial intelligence my position, right? So I'm going to go ahead and play the clip where, I've alarmed him here. And once I hit him, you can see that the markers down here turn to red, indicating that they're aware of my position and that they're going to start firing at me if they haven't already. So I turn around and look, they're all red and they're shooting at me. And that's where for loops are going to come into play a lot, is when you've got a bunch of different entities. So you've got a bunch of different soldiers in the game, right? For example. And we want to alert each and every single one of them. So what we're going to do is we're going to get all of the soldiers that we have inside of our game, and we're going to say for each and every single one of them, alarm the soldier and tell them about the player's position. And that's going to be it for today. If you've got any questions, comments, or concerns, go ahead and feel free to let me know in the comments section down below. If you have any, if you liked the video, go ahead and hit the like button. If you disliked it, then dislike it, and please tell me why. The reason I do this tutorial series is so that we can all become better C++ and game developers. So please give me some feedback there. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.